Hello, everyone. I'm Father Scott Vanderveer, and a friend of mine was going to a local synod meeting to be part of the listening session that Pope Francis has asked all the Catholics of the world to participate in so that we can get a good sense of how God is moving the church right now during our time in history. And one of the things that she said she was hoping to get a better understanding about is why non-Catholics can never, under any circumstances it seems, receive the Eucharist. Why is it that if a Protestant friend of ours, maybe our best friend, comes to a funeral in our church, why can't they receive the Eucharist? Why can't they also receive the same body and blood that everyone else receives? The answer to that question is very interesting and has a number of different levels. So I'm going to start by introducing to you the concept of open tables versus closed tables. Some churches have an open table, and what that means is everyone's welcome. Come on and join us at the table. We hope that you'll take part in our communion service today. Everyone's invited to come forward. We're all God's children, and so let's all receive the Eucharist together. And I think all of us can agree that there's a very beautiful value to that. There's something beautiful and meaningful about that. All are welcome. No one is turned away. God is the one who made us all. God is the one who created the Eucharist and brought us here. Somehow we were led here to this place and this time. So everyone who was led here, everyone who hears these words, you are welcome to join us at the table. An open table tells you something about the church. One of the things it tells you that it's warm and inclusive. Another thing it tells you is that they don't see communion or the Eucharist as a required membership issue for them. In other words, you do not become one with them by receiving communion with them. You maybe can still be a visitor in the church. You maybe are not a member of the church. You might be a totally different religion than the members of that community, but you're welcome to join them. When that happens, it means that you're not becoming a member when you join them in that. You're simply taking part in this beautiful celebration and this rich symbol. The Catholic Church does not see communion that way. And understanding that helps us to understand why not everyone is welcome to communion in the Catholic Church. Only members that are in communion, so to speak, with the church are able to receive communion. There's a lot that your mind might be thinking right now, and I'd like to take these things apart bit by bit. And I'm going to do this in connection to one of the biggest issues of communion and not receiving communion for people, which is when people are divorced and remarried. And I'd also like to talk with you a little bit about what it would mean for the church to see communion differently. So let's start by talking about the fact that the Catholic Church is a church that has a closed table, meaning only members in good connection with the community are welcomed to the table. Now, the reason for that is very clear, but first let's just attend to our feelings about it. You might say, I do not like the sound of that. That just feels harsh to me. And I think it's good for us to just attend to those feelings in that sense. No one would blame you for saying, I do not like the sound of that. We want open hearts. We want open minds. We want the doors of our church to be open. So to close the table feels hard for a lot of us. At the same time, if you think about what is the first experience you had of communion, you know that the Catholic Church considers communion one of the most important doorways to the mysteries of God. That's why we don't let young children receive it until they reach the age of reason, the age, usually around 7, when they can understand that things can look one way on the surface and be a different way deep down. That is a constitutive part of receiving the Eucharist, is for you to be able to have made a journey from where you were to where you are. Children wait 7 years to receive the Eucharist, and adults that are becoming Catholic wait usually a full year to receive the Eucharist in the community. It's because we treat the Eucharist as one of our sacraments of initiation, and other churches don't do that. We consider Eucharist as a doorway in to the mysteries of God and into the Catholic Church. So that is why your Protestant friend, when they come to communion, is welcome to be in the church, is encouraged to join in all of the prayers, is hoped to be responding to all that they're seeing with a sense of being receptive to us coming to them and saying, welcome, we're so glad you're here. We hope that you know that this home is your home. But then there's the awkwardness of saying, but we can't invite you to communion because that's in a whole different category. Communion for a Catholic is not about welcome. It's about belonging. It is not about putting cheese and crackers out for someone. And even as I say that, it sounds a little crass, so maybe let me back up a second and say, because a lot of you might be thinking, no one thinks it's cheese and crackers, Father, come on. Maybe to understand what I'm getting at, it would be good to say, you probably would never invite someone to your house and tell them to come have a seat on your sofa and to have a glass of wine or juice. You would never sit and engage them for a long conversation and tell them how welcome they are and then say, we're gonna have dinner now, but because you're not a member of the family, we're gonna ask you to sit here and not partake. There's an awkwardness to that. And so my friend said that one of the things she was hoping to get some more clarity about in the synod meeting was, what would it look like for the Catholic Church to have an open table? She's finding herself wanting to invite people to Mass, and she's finding herself wanting to bring them forward to communion. And she's having a hard time understanding why that wouldn't be a good idea. She wants to bring people into this faith, and she wants to do it in a way that allows them to feel fully welcomed on every level, not just coming in the door. But I hope that you can see by what I'm saying that Eucharist is in a category with baptism and confirmation as a sacrament that initiates you into the Catholic faith. The Eucharist is what makes the Church Catholic, and it's what makes the members of the Church Catholic. And so it is a very dicey thing, but it is true that we are not able to have the theology that says this is the sign that you are fully initiated into this faith, and also tell people you can have a taste before you commit, try before you buy, or some other version of that. I once heard a priest talk about the difference between churches that are Christian with an open table and churches that are Christian like ours with a closed table. And he said this: it all comes down to whether we think Christ wants the Eucharist to be a sign that we have arrived at unity and the way that we keep unity, or as a means to achieve unity. So what is Eucharist? Is it the sign that we've arrived at unity, or is it the way to achieve unity? And then he said this. He said, I can see that for many people, for many Christians out there, the Eucharist is the sign that we are one, that whether we agree with each other or not, whether we like each other or not, whether we think the person behind us is a great singer or not at Mass, maybe they are, maybe they're not, we are one family. We are one in this table. We're one body. And we, though many throughout the earth, are one body in the one Lord that we celebrate at the Eucharist. For churches with closed tables, the way you know that you are unified is that the people there are receiving this great heavenly banquet. Other churches see it differently. They think that the Eucharist or communion is the means to achieve unity. This priest that was telling me this said, I think if you look in the Gospels, you can see that Jesus used meals as a way to achieve unity. He ate with tax collectors and sinners. He gathered people who were known to be doing the wrong thing and brought them in through sharing meals with them. But at the same time, Jesus also gives us this great vision of what heaven is going to be like and tells us that the Eucharist is the foretaste of the heavenly kingdom. The priest ended by saying, when we get to heaven, we'll know what God thought was a better plan. For now, I'm not sure. But I will say, I don't see our church opening the table anytime soon, especially because, and then this is just review of something you already know. In the Catholic Church, we do not see the Eucharist as a symbol. We see it as actually the body and blood, the soul and the divinity of Christ, that it contains the whole Christ that lives with God in heaven, right there in this little wafer and this little sip of wine. We believe that transubstantiation does not change the outside appearance of the bread and the wine, but changes the essential nature of it, changes the substance. Trans change, substantia, the substance. It's the process by which the actual substance changes. Most churches, in fact, maybe it's all churches, that believe in a substantial change, which includes the Catholics and the Orthodox as the preeminent ones, do not open their table. Their understanding of the Eucharist as being the actual presence of God makes it so that it cannot be tasted as a sample or used as a lever to bring people closer to us. It must be kept as a sacred gift that is the means to our unity. So, what can I tell you about this? There's a lot to unpack here. And what I've done in these past 13 or so minutes is just the tip of the iceberg. Let's talk a little more about this, and maybe we can talk about it in relationship with some of the actual situations we find ourselves in. But perhaps an understanding of the open versus closed table model will allow us to find our way to a deeper understanding and appreciation of the Eucharist and of all of those other Christians who share the gift of communion with us. May God bless you, one and all.